Hello everybody and welcome back to the Stacey West preview show. I am your host Jake as always. This week Lincoln travelled down to the Kassam Stadium to face Oxford United on Tuesday night. But before we get into it, let's have a little look at Forest Green. So for some more in-depth thoughts about the game against Forest Green, please make sure to head over to the West End Imp show that did go out on Sunday lunchtime. But I was disappointed with the 1-1 draw. I thought we could have won the game. Obviously, the injury to Tashan Oakley-Booth came a good time, allowing Jordan Garrick to make his home debut for the club. He came on, should have scored a couple of goals, really. Looked really lively, didn't he? But once we scored the goal, it looked like we are going to score 2 or 3. Unfortunately, they seemed to score from their only chance. TJ Aoma seemed to be, outstrengthed by Connor Wickham. And Connor Wickham put the ball away really nicely. So I think after the goal, Forest Green looked more likely to win it, which is disappointing for Mark Kennedy. However, Tuesday is a very good opportunity to rewrite what happened on Saturday afternoon. To help me preview the game against Oxford United, who else could I choose to come back on the channel for something like his 6th or 7th appearance? He's always helped out when we've done these preview shows. Joe Citrone and myself had a catch-up. Here's what he had to say.
Now then, Joe, this is what, your 6th time back on the channel?
7th, I'm losing count, mate. I'm losing count. Yeah, always good to talk to you.
Always good. Yeah, always good. How are you feeling anyway, being back at the football? I know we've had a whole year of it last year, but you're glad under a new season that we're back underway again?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really feel, I don't know how you feel, it didn't really feel much of a break, really, especially with the Women's Euros and the excitement around that as well. The Lionesses doing well. Didn't really feel like there was too much of a break. It felt like before you knew it, pre-season was back underway, and season starting in late July, which is pretty bizarre. So yeah, it never really felt like it was away.
And give us a summary then of what Oxford's business has looked like over the summer. Obviously, it started off pretty slowly, but I think the best business, and you'll agree with this, hopefully, is that you've kept Cameron Brannigan on a 3-year deal.
Well, I certainly agree with that. I was anticipating this question and wondering how to answer it exactly, because there's still very much up in the air in terms of our business. Still unsure on a couple of signings, what they're going to do. The balance of the squad still seems a little bit off to me. Still a couple of key positions desperately need addressing, which really needed addressing as priority from the start of the window. But yeah, of course, to keep Cameron Brannigan at the club, especially when it seemed almost certain he was going to leave. I think the whole of League One was rejoicing when they saw that Blackpool had triggered his release clause. And it seems, obviously he's signed a new contract, so that's an unbelievable bit of business, but of course not cheap. And Robinson's been backed again this window, and I think the whole fan base, I think the board as well, I think are surely expecting big things from this season. And obviously we've got off to a bit of a sluggish start, I think it'd be fair to say. And we need to bring more players in, and we need to bring more reinforcements in, particularly in defence, and of course a little bit of pace up front as well wouldn't go amiss. But yeah, difficult really to assess our business so far. A couple of players injured, a couple of players still to get up to speed. I'm sure it's impossible to judge a window 3 games in, either way, whether it's good or bad. So still a lot of things that need addressing. But of course, to keep Cameron Brannigan, to keep Elliot Moore as well, the captain, to a 3-year contract. Good business in terms of keeping players here. Of course, we lost 1 or 2, Sykes and McNally, but to be expected, to be fair. But yeah, just need 1 or 2 things, and I think fans are start to get slightly frustrated that these things haven't been addressed yet. But still 2 weeks to go, of course.
I remember we sort of play each other always at the start of the season, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's always the case that you guys have a bit of a sluggish start. Do you think this time around Carl Robinson might have to pay with his job if your sluggish start keeps continuing?
It's a really interesting question, and one that I think a few fans have been talking about. Not in the sense of, I don't think the Robinson out brigade is particularly vocal at the moment. I think whenever you have a couple of bad results, people, overreact slightly, and that's, the fickle nature of football. I'm certainly one of those people who go, overreact after a bad result. But of course, he's been backed again in the transfer window, and people are questioning now, is he the right if we can't deliver this season, has he taken us as far as he can? I think that's a fair question to ask. Of course, it's still early days in the season. We could still win the league from this point. It's too early to be having those conversations. I don't think any manager should be sacked after 3 games of a season or even be talked about that. But I think it's certainly a conversation for the end of the season if we haven't delivered the progress that I think the club and the fans are expecting. He's still got a massive supporter base at the club from the fans. A lot of fans still absolutely love him. You could see, when we beat Cambridge in the last minute, he's sprinting down the touchline. He gives the fans what they want in that respect. Fist pumping, passion, and to be fair, he's done a lot for the community and away from the club in the local community as well, which is certainly to be admired. And he's done a lot for this club in driving it forward. But I think it's certainly a question to be asked if we can't build on 3 seasons of going close. Can we afford to have a 4th season of going close, or even not going close? You know what I mean? It's something that would be considered if we were to falter. And we've had again a slow start, and it's just, I think a few fans, myself very much included, is just like, how are we unprepared for the start of the season again? Like, are we really having these conversations again? In terms of the slow start and the slow business. I don't know. There's still a lot of things though. We're 3 games in, and you're talking to me one day after a bad result, which is never the best time to catch me, I must say.
Yeah, let's talk about then a 1-0 defeat to Bristol Rovers yesterday in the early kickoff in Sky Bet League One. John Marquis, of all people, coming on and scoring the goal to inflict a defeat. What did you make of your game yesterday?
Where do I start? Terrible. Slow, pretty pedestrian, tepid. It's kind of like, to be fair, we've played 4 games, obviously, League and Cup so far this season. The performances have followed a similar pattern. Even the games the games we won against Swansea, obviously in the Cup, and Cambridge in the league, we didn't play particularly well. And I think it's another slow start, I'm afraid, from Oxford into the season. We need to pick up quickly. Tuesday is an important game all of a sudden, even though it's only the 4th of the season. You're suddenly looking at the clubs who we want to be chasing this season: Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich. How many points they are ahead of us. After 3 games, 4 points. If we lose again, could be 7. And we're suddenly playing catch up massively again. So it's an important game. We haven't performed well so far, but I think there will be changes for Tuesday in terms of the tactics and the selection, which hopefully will have an impact. Because again, we're still waiting to see. A couple of players. Lewis Bate hasn't started a league game yet. We've got a couple of injuries. Jody Jones hasn't started for us yet in the league. Josh Murphy's injured. So there's still, little bits and pieces that we need that will improve, I'm sure, as time goes on. But again, it seems as if we're at risk, at least, of falling foul of a slow start and having to play catch up, which is pretty frustrating.
And we'd like to take a look at the last result between the 2 clubs, which obviously was in January, I believe. It was a 2-0 win for Lincoln over Oxford at Central Bank. What did you make of that afternoon? Because that was probably one of our better games that we played all season.
I mean, casting my mind, was Herbie Kane sent off in that game? I think it was almost the start of a little bit of a slump for Herbie Kane, because I don't think he really came back the same after that red card, a lot of people were saying. Just a classic kind of, our away form is patchy at best, I guess, and that was one of the poor afternoons that we produced last season. That ends up sort of, in the grand scheme of things, looking back and thinking, well, that's a game that we let slip, and that's a game that we could have done better in, and ultimately that, if you look how many points we were off the playoffs, that's one that we could have caught up on. Other games we lost away from home, Wimbledon, Cheltenham games. Really, if you're going to go for the promotion or the playoffs, you've got to be doing slightly better in. Not a surprise, really, Appleton coming against the former club and beating us. I mean, I think a lot of people saw it coming on the day, but a disappointing game, obviously, from us, not from you, of course.
Obviously, Appleton has since left the football club. Were you surprised at all that pretty much seconds after the final whistle game against Crewe that it was off, and obviously he ended up in the Championship with Blackpool, something that you predicted that he'd go into a higher division?
I mean, I think it's kind of, it was surprising at the timing. I guess it's something that was in the pipeline for maybe a week or so before the last game of the season, or maybe even longer. Who knows? I've always said that, obviously from outside looking in, I'm not paying attention to the ongoings at Lincoln City, but from the outside looking in, I've always felt like that's probably one of the best people you could have to manage you in terms of trying to close the gap between, of course, the huge disparity between some of the top clubs and to close that gap is difficult between Lincoln and, say, Sheffield Wednesday or Ipswich or Portsmouth or whatever. I felt he was the best person for you to be able to do that. Obviously, things went stale, though, and sometimes change is required. I don't know too much about your new manager, but, he could be the next bright young manager in the EFL. I don't know too much about him. Obviously, for me, it's no shock that Appleton's gone on to get another job because he's very good at his job, I think, and I think a lot of people in football admire what he does and what he's about. So, I'm still a huge admirer of Appleton. Of course, he tried to sign Cameron Brannigan off us, which, I'm not, still, not too happy with him for trying to do that. But of course, any manager would want him in their club. But yeah, I think obviously, things come to an end, and that has for Lincoln, and hopefully your new guy will do good things for you.
And finally, a score prediction, Joe, from yourself for the game on Tuesday.
I mean, as much as I feel like I've been quite negative in this video. I don't want to come across overly negative. There's still good things that we can look at Oxford in terms of some of the players we've got. Cameron Brannigan, of course, great player. Any team would want Matty Taylor as their number 9, although he's got off to a slightly disappointing start to the season. We've got to integrate some new signings. Carl Joseph, I haven't mentioned, might well start his first game for the club on Tuesday. So I've got to be hopeful after Saturday for a bit of a response on Tuesday, I guess. So I'm going to try and be as optimistic as I can and say Oxford are going to win, although I'm not expecting us to suddenly click into gear and be in scintillating form. As much as we will definitely improve as the season goes on, I still think we're in that sluggish early start of the season. We might have to grind out a result. So I'm going to go 2-1 to Oxford.
Top man, Joe. Thanks for coming on again.
No worries, man.
Massive credit to Joe for coming on the channel again. He must be getting bored of me now asking him all the questions about Oxford United. Really interesting to hear his thoughts on Michael Appleton and in terms of where the U's might be heading in the transfer window. Certainly looks like a game that we might be able to win. Obviously, we've sort of threatened it for a long time now this season, haven't we? Obviously, we had the game against Doncaster where we seem to run riot. However, we've yet to do that in the league. However, I think a lot of supporters would be happy with a point, wouldn't they, at the Kassam? It's not really a happy hunting ground for us. I seem to think we have lost every time we've been there since we've been in League One. So to come away with any form of result will be positive. So yeah, massively looking forward to the game on Tuesday night, looking to go down. And yeah, it should be a good evening of football. And that is that for this midweek special edition of the Stacey West preview show. We will be back on Thursday in front of your screens for another preview show as we take on Peterborough. There will also be a West End Imp show that goes up on Wednesday. Fingers crossed we get that sorted for you. But please make sure that you like, comment and subscribe, share it with all your mates as we are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2022. It'd be massively appreciated. But for now, thank you for watching and up the Imps.